Folks, we're going to be a few more minutes. We're just waiting for one other council member, so we have a quorum. Is she going to be at that one? Oh, of course. I mean, I'm thinking Brian. I guess Brian. Yeah. Danielle, if you can hear me, will you just give us a test, 1, 2, 3, see if we can hear you?
Yes, I'm here. 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Perfect. Well, that's good. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll begin our city council meeting today. Appreciate you being here. Trying to do the best we can to provide for social distancing and masks if you want to wear them. The council is sufficiently distanced. We're not going to wear masks, and we are missing Jimmy Hughes, who's out of town, and he graciously asked us to go on without him, right, Michelle? And we will be joined by Councilman Smethurst in a few moments. And we have Councilwoman Danielle Larkin joining us by Zoom today, who's out of town for a wedding. So it's that time of year, lots of things going on. Let's begin, if we could, with an invocation. See if I can get this right. Linda Van Wert. Hi, Linda. From our Buddhist community here in town, and as representing the St. George Interfaith Council. Please, Linda, come forward.
Hi.
Hello.
Can we begin just by taking a moment to close our eyes and listen to the silence? And breathe slowly. As we begin with this breath, may we recognize our connection to all beings. May we act with kindness, strength, wisdom, and resolve. From this silence, may we offer only our best, knowing we benefit others.
Linda, thank you. Very calming, prepares us well. Thank you so much. Let's rise if we could, and let's repeat the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Michelle? Yeah.
Well, today's kind of been an emotional day. It started this morning. The mayor was there and Councilman Smethurst, and the fair this year, which I thought was an amazing idea, decided to do a salute to the World War II veterans. And we have 82 World War II veterans in Washington County. And there were quite a few that were there today. Or maybe, yeah. Yeah, and they brought them in. A gentleman played the bagpipes, and the oldest one there was 103. And the county read their proclamation. Commissioner Almquist is here. A very nice proclamation that he handed to each one of them, and it was just touching, especially the turmoil our country's in right now, and thinking that they're the greatest generation, and we have a lot to be thankful for them. And then, of course, being part of the procession for Sergeant Mount was truly moving and touching, and to be out at the airport and watch him fly in, and his wife go over to his casket, and then to go down Main Street, Mayor, and our community is amazing. Lining the streets all the way down, there were people stopped on the Southern Parkway. There were people at South Bluff and Maine. American flags, little kids holding signs, thank you for your service. It just a really touching day. Thankful for our military and what they do.
Thanks, Michelle. It was amazing. You know, you have something like this, a tragedy like this, for one of our own, a young man born here, raised in Parowan, but his family, much of them are here. We know them, and they, of course, brought him home, and his services will be in Parowan, where he was raised, on Saturday. But you worry because as we're trying to kind of gather and get the word out to people, you just hope there will be more than 20, for someone like this. And, I wondered, I had a few people reach out to me and say, hey, what if we put some flags up by the theaters there on Main Street, and talk to the property owner, Jim MacArthur, and he said, sure, Well, not only are those flags put up by a scout troop, but you got hundreds of people there with their own flags and their own signs. And I was wondering, should we be calling the communities, the neighborhood groups, and saying, can you put some flags out? Can you get some people? We didn't need to. Everyone just came out, and this is what I love about our community. It's what is great about Dixie and about St. George. People come out, they come together. We're a patriotic people, and I talked to this young man's wife, widow now, and his mother and his brother, and they were blown away. They were just very, very pleased, and in fact, his mom joked with me and just said, golly, you think you could have got a few more people out, Mayor? But there were, I don't know, there had to be thousands, and I'm just really pleased.
And every city had a law enforcement representative. Yep. We even saw Chief Whitehead and I, was it Mojave County? Yep. That were stopped up there.
On Main Street, weren't they?
On Main Street, yeah. And just amazing. And Chief Stoker and I went to school with his mom, and
Bronwyn.
With Bronwyn, yeah. So our condolences go out to his family.
Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate Michelle, who's got a special tie to the military, and with her, at least one son I know of, and of course law enforcement and first responders, additional first responders, and Brian, who's retired active duty. And Brian rode in the procession today, had to go get cleaned up. The mayor wasn't that smart. So that's why social distancing is extra important today. Brian, between you and Michelle, I'll try to stay right here. But anyway, it was a beautiful afternoon. As Michelle was saying, with all the things that we have that sometimes divide us, something like this, really does put things in perspective, doesn't it? And helps you realize what matters most, and that is family, friends, and of course our country and God. So anyway, thanks to everybody, thanking all of you, and by extension everyone else who from around our community and even out of the area that came to pay their respects to Sergeant Brian Cooper Mount. Won't be forgotten. Okay, Brian, anything you'd like to say? We kind of skipped over you for a minute, but we didn't forget you either.
No, I just want to tell everybody thank you for today. It's we all have somebody that's served or serving, and it's always good to know that people care when you come home either way. And this isn't the way you like to come home, but it sure was beautiful to see everybody out there and the support. And that's he'd be very proud of what we showed today. So thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Gold Star families. You know what those are? You know what those are, Brian? So I think it's time we have a Gold Star family memorial in St. George. So Brian and Michelle, I'd like to have you work with Jenny Taylor, who's the civilian aide to the Secretary of the Army for Utah, and the widow of Major Brent Taylor, who passed away almost 2 years ago in the line of duty, was killed in the line of duty. I'd like to ask you to help coordinate that. I think it's time we have one of those somewhere prominent, maybe at Town Square here in our community. So she's going to send me information, and we'll look into that. Does that sound good?
Awesome.
And we're honoring the families. That's what that is, to honor the families of those who've passed away and killed in the line of duty. And as they did I think it was the first one, maybe not the first, but the most recent one anyway, in North Ogden, where Major Taylor was from. She just said that we thought we were providing this for the recent Gold Star families, but the families from decades ago came out, and it meant so much to them. So anyway, I think that's something we could work on and solicit the help of the community to raise funds for. It's not cheap to do, but I think we can get that done here. Okay, Adam, before we launch in, any changes to the agenda?
Well, we like to keep you on your toes, so we do have a couple of changes. Item number 10 has been removed at the request of the applicant. Item number 12, I'm sure you noticed, that item was corrected and amended, so there is an addendum. Same item, we just wanted to add a little bit more detail, make sure we were getting it correct. I would note that, just a reminder, we do have a Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency meeting as well tonight. That's a short agenda. And then if we could, I would recommend, because of a time crunch on the part of our applicants for item number 9, or item number 8, if we could move that to immediately after the consent calendar, that would assist them in getting to another obligation. So
Thank
item
you.
8, right after the consent calendar.
Okay, we'll do that. Questions on the agenda before we begin, Council? Danielle, you good?
I think we lost her for a minute. I just got a note that we're trying to get her back on.
Okay.
But I think we can proceed.
Okay, we still have a quorum, and she's been lost for a while, Brian? All right. Well, our first item, comments from the public, we do on the first regular meeting of the month, and I have several that have submitted their forms here, so I will do that. Let's see. First of all, we have April McKee, and then Mike McKee, and then Steve Horner are the three that I have. Any others that didn't get their forms turned in? These are for people who would like to make comments that are not on the agenda and not likely to be on an agenda upcoming soon. Just to go over the rules, you must be a resident of the city of St. George. Each speaker will be given approximately 3 minutes, and then we ask that you be courteous and show respect, and we will too. And then, like I said, comments cannot be related to pending issues on the agenda or likely to be on a future agenda. So, April. Hi.
Thank you for allowing us to say a few words. What I have to say is based on incidents that I read about in the paper, so I apologize beforehand if the paper was incorrect, about when Black Lives Matter came to St. George a few weeks ago. Dear Mayor and City Council, I believe that the actions and decisions of the City Council, Mayor, and Police Chief should reflect the values of the citizens of St. George. I also believe that the City Council, Mayor, and Police Chief should thoroughly understand the political, economic, and moral dilemmas that currently embroil our community, our state, and our country. I also believe that the Mayor and Police Chief should have the backs of their taxpayer base, their constituents who voted them into office, by defending and upholding our city, state, and federal laws. And sadly, I did not see this happening from what I had read in the Spectrum, especially when Black Lives Matter agitators were bussed into town. Did you all realize that Black Lives Matter had bricks delivered to their bus site? Bricks are not usually needed for a peaceful protest. Did you realize that the grassroots Black Lives Matter movement that started in 2013 is now a global network, spending millions of dollars each year to fly and bus trained agitators to cities everywhere in the world, not just the United States? Did you realize that the founding women, or at least 2 of the 3, described themselves as gay or queer, and all 3 described themselves as trained Marxists? Their description, not mine. Did you know that one of their stated goals is the disruption and eventual destruction of the nuclear family, which is always a stated goal among all Marxist organizations? Did you know they believe the nuclear family is a Western construct of white culture so that private property can be passed from generation to generation? In destroying family ties, Marxists believe that they can destroy our rights to own property and any possessions. Did you know that the Black Lives Matter manifesto calls for the elimination of legislative and judicial branches of the U.S. government? It also calls for, instead of using armed police, the use of unarmed intervention teams. It also calls, among other things, for the seizure of all religious possessions, as well as the complete abolition of all religious institutions. From what I read in the newspaper, our mayor and police chief chose between political agendas, chose between Black Lives Matter Marxist agitators and peaceful pro-police St. George citizens, when the mayor held a sign with them stating, "White silence equals black death." When our police chief knelt with Black Lives Matter to their godless ideology, I, for one, will kneel willingly for no man, only to my Savior, Jesus Christ. The mayor, I assume...
Time to wrap up, so...
Pardon me?
It's time to wrap up.
Okay. The mayor, I assume, and police chief chose to arrest a St. George citizen when she was being assaulted by a BLM agitator. Is this how our Second Amendment rights and concealed carry privileges are being upheld by our city? I hope not. The BLM agitators kicking cars, throwing objects, surrounding police officers who were denied assistance were not arrested, but appeared to be rewarded with popsicles. Almost done. I would expect
Time's
BLM...
up, April. Past time, so please,
Okay.
please
Thank
wrap
you.
up.
Thank you for my time.
Thank you. Bravo. Steve, no, we don't have applause at city council meeting. Thank you. We appreciate your opinion, and that's what this is for. Be happy to talk with you if you'd like about any of those items. Not quite representative of what actually happened. Next, Mike McKee. This is, I believe, on the topic of 4th of July, I believe.
Yes, the illegal fireworks that happened.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you, City Council Mayor, for hearing me out. I have 3 letters I took from the local newspaper about people concerned about the fireworks going off. I have picked this up off my property. 2 are pieces of bottle rockets that landed on it, and a third is what's left of a cardboard box that burned. Now, it's kind of disconcerting to know, and I think well, he was here, the fire chief. He could tell you that any type of fireworks is an explosive under classification under the U.S. Marshals or Fire Marshals Code. Okay? To have illegal explosives landing on my property, catching things on fire, is to me unacceptable. I don't know, was there any enforcement done around the 4th of July? Is it low on the priority? How many citations were issued? I can't answer that. I just know that the last time I had explosives landed on me was in Vietnam, and it wasn't a pleasant experience then, and it wasn't a pleasant experience for me as a citizen of St. George to have to cower in my house while it's being rained on by illegal fireworks. I don't know what the city council can do about it, but I did want to bring it to your attention, and I will leave these here on the desk with the city attorney for you to review at a later date. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Real quick. Did you say Mike?
That's
Do I
what-
know you, sir?
It says Mike on this form right
Yes,
here.
it's Mike McKee, I believe.
Very good.
Yeah. Would you refer to me as Mr. McKee, and I'll refer you to you as the mayor until we get to know each other?
Sure. You're
Okay,
welcome to call me
thank you.
John, though, Mr. McKee. Okay, we happen to have our fire chief with us. I wouldn't mind, Chief, could you maybe come and just give us a little bit of an overview of how things went, and kind of maybe the perspective of St. George Fire Department, and as we've talked about this as council and city manager, maybe just give us a lowdown, and if you have any even just general idea in terms of citations issued, I don't know that you would know, but maybe how that's gone this year.
Yes, the fireworks actually fall under the State Fire Marshal's office and the state code. We do restrict areas in the city where fireworks can be discharged. The dates, the types of fireworks, all of those come from the state code. What we end up doing is enforcing the ones that we respond on. It actually falls under our law enforcement, our police department to issue those citations. I know on the days leading up to the holidays and after, whether it's during the legal time or not, we do have a lot of fireworks in the evenings. If you watch our computer CAD where the calls come in for law enforcement, they'll have multiple calls for fireworks. And they respond on those as quickly as they can, along with all the other calls that are coming in. A lot of times when we do get there, or when the law enforcement gets there, the fireworks have stopped, and the people have gone inside, or they've cleaned them up, or they disperse, and it's hard to find which ones are doing it. So we really rely on neighbors to make those phone calls in. There's been a few that we've responded on that they end up not being illegal, because now the state did change a few years ago that certain types of aerial fireworks are legal. But we would rather respond on those and look at those and make that determination. So we encourage our citizens to call, and report those so we can respond out. We get into this discussion every year on whether we should restrict those. By state law, we can't restrict the use of fireworks. We can limit it where they're used at, but we can't restrict the use. So what we find is the ones that follow the rules are the ones that we restrict. The ones that are shooting illegal fireworks, we'll shoot them no matter what rules we pass. And it is very frustrating, but our hands are tied somewhat by the state code. So We'll have multiple people that go out in these restricted areas and light fireworks. You know, they'll go up the old Turkey Farm Road, Cottonwood Springs Road, where they're out of the city, but they're up in the, and that's what caused the Turkey Road Farm fire. Turkey Farm Road fire this year was fireworks. So the ones that we do cite quite a few, or have law enforcement cite during those around the 4th and around the 24th. I'm not sure how many citations were issued, but the ones that we are able to cite, we will charge those. There's a number of things: illegal fireworks, restricted area fireworks, or out of the dates fireworks. And then if they do cause a fire, we'll actually do a cost recovery through the legal department to recoup the cost for those. And then if there's any damage to neighbors, you know, any type of buildings or things, then they can go after them civilly. So we try to enforce the best we can. I know law enforcement does also, but on those nights, I mean, it just gets, you'll have sometimes 15, 20, 25 calls holding on fireworks calls throughout the city, and they're responding to those as quickly as they can. So it is frustrating. We understand the frustration from our citizens. We get a lot of calls, you know, before and after, why don't we just shut everything down? And you know, I served on the State Fire Prevention Board through the state for 9 years, and we're the ones that make those rules. The only time that we ever had a lot of media coverage at our meetings or any big concern is when we dealt with fireworks. And we had you know, lobbyists and all kinds of people come, and it's big money. And it's, you know, they make sure that their voices are heard, and like I say, the state does everything they can to restrict those. I mean, you go to the, you know, Moapa Valley, you go to Wyoming, you go to those places, and it's almost a free-for-all. So the city's done, or the state's done what they can to restrict those. But again, we have a lot of people that are bringing those from out of state. We've also had a lot of our vendors that we have business license to sell in town. We'll sell legal fireworks, and we go inspect those. We've confiscated multiple times illegal fireworks from those vendors and shut their booth down for the year. So if we find any illegal fireworks in those booths, then we'll pull their business license and close them down for the remaining of the season. So we do the best we can, but like I say, it's some of those nights that fireworks are going off, or we're running to call to call, and like I say, so is the police department. But we do rely heavily on our citizens to call those in on their neighbors and let us know, you know, which house is lighting them off, which ones are doing it, and those things. So it does get quite frustrating, but we're limited on what we can do by the state law.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate all that you and your team and St. George PD do as well. I know you responded to a lot of fires on those
Yes.
peak days around both. I don't even know how many. Can you estimate how many?
We had on the night of the 4th, I believe we were over 35 calls just for that night.
Yeah.
And so it's like I say, we're stretched pretty thin. I know the other departments around us are. We have mutual aid agreements with all the agencies in Washington County, so we were, you know, it's almost like one big department is what it turns into on those nights, and whatever units are available, you know, we'll go into Washington, they'll come here, Santa Clara, the same thing. So, but it is all the agencies are busy on those nights.
Well, thank you for your efforts. And it is, it can be tragic, of course, as we know. We lost a house in one part of town that
Yes.
that was probably a result of fireworks, not properly
It was.
doused, and that was a very, you know, well, they're always tragic, but that was, I don't know, I still am amazed that you can keep them from spreading to the houses that are so close together, you know, obviously. So glad no one was hurt in that fire. But the Turkey Farm Road fire had to be over, what, $5 million last count? I
think
probably
so, for
more
the
than that.
suppression costs alone.
Yep.
Then, like I said, we had a lot of damage with power poles, and the city had a lot with the well line, the power line that goes to the wells. So we were limited.
Yep.
You know, that limits our supply of water during the summer. So Energy Services did a great job getting that back up and running. So.
Well, appreciate all you do. And again, I know it's impossible for us to get sort of the word out to everybody, but we really do try to do all that we can with the bounds we have, as the chief said, by state law. And we have issued pretty extensive restrictions if people would look at them and follow them. And I think some people, they don't want to know or don't care, and that's when we have the biggest problems.
I mean, it comes down to they just don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, they're bringing illegal fireworks into the city from outside. They're shooting them off and discharging those in restricted areas, and those are the problems we have. And like I said, we found in the past that even when we restrict them, it's the person that's doing them in their driveway with their kids that's doing them legally. If you restrict them, they're the ones that won't do them. But the ones that are shooting them illegally and those things they'll still do them. So like I said, we encourage our citizens to call dispatch and get, as much information to them on who's shooting those off, and law enforcement will go out and cite them for illegal fireworks or amongst other charges.
Thank you for the reminders and the clarifications, Chief.
Thank you.
And appreciate the comment, Mr. McKeon. And then let's see.
Mayor, I'd like to say
Yes,
something.
please, Brian.
Sir, thank you and all others for your service. I too know the feeling you get when that happens. I have a tough time with the 4th of July, and it used to be my favorite holiday. I know I have to look at why we do it. I mean, we're celebrating our freedom and why we're doing this. So that I take into consideration. But also, have you talked to your neighbors about your situation? That's just a rhetorical question, just throwing it out there, because I go to my neighbors and they've actually come and asked me if it actually bothers me, because they know I'm retired and I have deployed. If you go to your neighborhood and you can let them know, if you see them out there, maybe just educate them on how you feel, how it makes you feel. If you could give me a warning, if you could, my neighbors will come over to my house and they'll say, is it okay if we shoot fireworks off tonight? And I said, thank you for the notice. And they are very welcome. And I have 3 or 4 veterans living in my neighborhood, Vietnam as well. And we all get the same courtesy. So if we educate our neighbors and our friends of what's going on, every once in a while we'll get some kids that just want to go out and play and forget, and I understand that, but I have to take that into consideration of why they're doing it. They are kids, they like to have fun, and if it is an issue with fire, then you need to educate them as well. Let our police officers know, because I know they'll get to it as quick as they can, and if they can't, they're busy. But I think we need to do a little better job of educating our neighbors and our friends about how we feel with fireworks, if that's an issue to us. And I've done that, and it's worked very well in my neighborhood. So I encourage you to do that, and I thank you for coming forward with this.
Thanks, Brian. Steve Horner.
Well, as a Vietnam infantry veteran, I have never had anybody ask me if they thought it'd be okay to blow off some fireworks. I'm for the complete abolishment of all of them, and I think they're noisy, they're smoky, and they're hazardous, and the ones that I find that are blown off the commercial grade have no idea of the relevance of the celebration. That's what I have found. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. I'm Steve Horner. As I told Chief Stoker here earlier, I plan to spend the rest of the campaign here in St. George. Been here for 10 years, and I love it. Every aspect of it. I have a vindictive neighbor who has called police on me twice. He's a son of a neighbor. He's a 55-year-old guy, and some people would say, well, he's going to go postal someday. But that would be discrediting the postal people. He's just angry at me, and I have really no reason why, no reason to understand why. And he called the police, The police came over and said, obviously you're not drunk, obviously your car's not smashed up. I got the Grommer report, and it's Todd Alford. So a couple of weeks ago, same thing happened. I was able to get the Grommer report. I recognize his voice, Todd Alford. So I spoke to Justin Grenier, 911 dispatch specialist, nice guy, top of the ladder. And he says, well, it's a statewide thing, and they're allowed to put in anonymous phone calls. So what if the medical truck that came over here because of Todd Alford, or the two cops that came over, had been sideswiped, killed, or jackknifed, or whatever the terms are, and killed somebody, or one of them were killed? Who's that on? You see? And I think that to allow anonymous phone calls is a travesty of justice. But then Justin reminds me, well, then there's domestic abuse. We don't want to be known there. And then there's crime, and there's drug snitching, and so on and so forth. Okay, that's fine. I think that maybe Cindy Flowers, who is the director down there in the dispatch, maybe they should ask, do you want to remain anonymous or not? You see? Because I think there's a real lot of bad sides to the remaining anonymous, because I tried to have the police tap Todd for a false police report, wouldn't do it. You know, so he's getting away with a crime at the risk of one of these police or medical people being damaged on the road or damaging somebody else. Rich Farnsworth, one of my all-time top guys. Okay, I was speaking to an unimpeachable source back in March. And he said the reason he left is because of the issues you had with the same council member, Michelle. And I said,
It's been 3 minutes, Steve, so you better wrap it up. You got about 5 seconds.
oh, well, that went quick. When you're having fun, huh? Well, anyhow, so that's a popular conversation. I don't think people from the council should dictate police values and policies to the police. And when I spoke to Kent today up at the Union in Taylorsville, he said, widespread problem. You got people from the council who are dictating policy to the police, and they don't have any idea what they're talking about.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
I'll have to make my other point some other time.
You're sure welcome to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll just say that, again, that's not quite how things happen. I realize that sometimes the communications aren't exactly correct the further away they get from the source. But Michelle Randall actually is assigned as a council member to the police department, and I think does a very nice job. Michelle, thank you. Okay, let's go on to the consent calendar. Council, there's some, rather important items on this. Have you had a chance to look at all those? As you know, what we typically do with the consent calendar is, unless you have any questions that you'd like to pull something off and have further discussion on, they are administrative in nature, and we pass them, all together if there's such a motion. So anything that you have concerns that you'd like to pull off or have more discussion on? You see several grants, you see some awards, bids and so forth being proposed to be awarded. Greg?
Yeah, I think there's one worth bringing up. It would come to item J and item K, specifically item K. Now, this is just a comment on this, and that is, I've had a resident reach out to me. I think they've reached out to other individuals as well, just talking about concerns with municipalities taking the large sums of money from the CARES Act from the federal government. Just concerns with the spending that's happening at the federal level, and us being recipients of that because of the debt that we're incurring just moving forward. Now, that's just something I want to bring up. I think it is a concern of a lot of people of that. And now, being tied to the city of St. George and other things and being involved in things like this, I know that a lot of the things that we do, a lot of the things that make our community a great place to live are tied to federal grants and funds and things like that. So it is part of how things operate. As a city, I do think that we should look at these things and try to be as self-sufficient as we can when we can. Just a general comment on that.
Yeah, well said. One thing, Cameron, would you just maybe offer a little bit of perspective on this? We do get, and this is what I'd like Cameron to just clarify, we do regularly receive grant funding through the federal government, FTA, Federal Transportation Association. Would you just comment on that? The thing that's most different with this is matching amounts and maybe some additional funding, but would you just comment on it? I think it's a fair point that Greg raises.
Sure. So the CARES grant funds, the transportation agency actually...
Cameron, would you lift that mic just a little bit?
Ooh, I was trying not to touch it.
Thanks.
So that it didn't have to get wiped off again. Sorry. Oh, he's probably going to double wipe it, but sorry, since I'm up here. So the CARES Act funds, it actually got injected into the 5307 FTA funds that we normally get. And so as we apply for those, the only difference really, we're still getting the federal funds as we have for the FTA, but because of the CARES Act, we don't have the match money. The operations, we usually match 50-50, 50%. Any kind of capital improvements when we purchase buses, replace buses, that's usually either an 80-20 or an 85-15. But yes, so the CARES Act funds, we still have federal funds out there that that are obligated to Suntran, and then we have to request them for reimbursement. And it was the same process that we went through the CARES grant. It's just that the FTA moved monies in, some additional funds, but we haven't really purchased anything more than we have in our normal operations.
Okay. One of the reasons, and again, good people can disagree, on whether you should accept the funds and so forth, but ridership has been down about 35-40%. Is that correct?
About 30%, yeah.
Since COVID, and so I think it's one of the ways that the Federal Transportation Association and through the CARES Act is trying to help by increasing their match and reducing our match. So, for example, we hope to buy our first electric bus through this. And there's some funding, as you know, Council, for some of the charging stations and so forth, and security, as I recall, that would help that happen. So
one thing to point out, so we received CARES grant, at least obligated to go back into the 5307 funds that we usually get from the federal government for transit. We also have some CARES grant funds that went to the airport. And so what it appears, my opinion, those services that are heavily used by the public, the federal government wanted to keep those services going in case any municipality had great impacts because of economy or anything else. And so they funneled money to the FAA, the airports, and the transit. And that's why those two entities were receiving some of those CARES grant.
I think it's worth having the explanation. Thank you, Cameron.
Thanks a lot, Cameron.
Yeah.
Sorry for typing.
Any other questions on the consent items? If not, I would accept a motion, Council.
I make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Second.
We have a motion by Brian and a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? Danielle, are you on still?
I am.
Okay, good. Then all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. I thought I heard all the ayes. The ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Adam? Should we go to item 8? Is that what we're going to do now?
Item 8, and I'm gonna mix it up just a little bit more. I was reminded that item 7 is a prerequisite to be able to approve item 8, so let's do item 7 first.
Okay, very good.
All right. Okay, item number, what was 7, is to consider approval of an ordinance to revise portions of Title 10 of the St. George City Code as it relates to parking and setbacks in the PDC, Plan Development Commercial, and PDMU, Plan Development Mixed Use zones. This, as we got looking into the next item, as we started reviewing that, we realized that there are a few inconsistencies with the PDC and PDMU zones in basically the town center area, an area I'll show you here in just a second. So this particular application is meant to kind of bring that in line, those PDC and PDMU zones in line with what's allowed in the C4 zone. And so I'll run through that with you here. My mouse will work. There we go. So this is the area we're looking at. Basically, you have St. George Boulevard running through the middle of it. There we go. You can see this is kind of struggling. I apologize. But this is Smith's right over here on this far end. And it's this area outlined in blue, and I'm sorry, my mouse is having a hard time. But that's the area we're talking about. It's roughly the C4, the area that is C4 now. So the changes that we're proposing is that in this, what we're calling the central business district, that the PDC zones are allowed to go to a 0 setback, a 0-foot setback in the front and on the rear and sides, again, to basically mimic what is allowed in the C4 zone. In fact, there would be a maximum front setback of 10 feet. This is a number of parking, again, to just go along with the C4 zone parking in the PDMU and PDC. In that central business district, it would be counted at a ratio of 1 to 500 square feet for office. And then the PD, let's see, there's a requirement for a landscape strip out front of the any development, and that would be reduced so that it is not required in that C4 zone, or excuse me, in the PDMU and PDC zone, just like it's not in the C4. So that's the proposal, and again, this will bring it in line with the C4 zone in that central business district, and this would only apply, these changes would only apply in that area that I showed you on your screen there. So if there are any questions from me, I'd be happy to answer those.
Council? Any questions?
I don't have any.
Nope. Danielle, any questions?
Nope, it sounds like a good idea to me.
Okay. All right, this is item 7. Let's see, this isn't for a public hearing, correct, Adam? And so, but it is an ordinance. So, council, if you're so inclined, I'd be ready for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve an ordinance to revise portions of Title 10 of the St. George City Code as it relates to parking and setbacks in the PDC, PDMU, and C4 zones.
Second.
Motion was made by Michelle with a second by Brian. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
Aye.
And then Michelle.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. And now, Dan, number 8.
Sorry to make you clean that for me, just to come back up. Okay. This next item is to consider approval of an ordinance changing the zone from C4 to PDC, planned development commercial on property located on the northeast corner of Tabernacle and 100 East. So, just to get an idea of where we're looking, this is the property outlined in blue. This is the current county facilities, county office facilities, just to the east of this property.
Sean Guzman really likes this building, by the way, Commissioner and Nicole. He never wants you to tear it down. Okay, anyway, sorry, Dan, go ahead.
No problem. So you can see the property is zoned C4 currently. General plan suggests commercial on the property. This is a look at the conceptual site plan that they've provided. And now with those changes made to the code, this would be in compliance with the current requirement, the new requirements. The building is situated on the corner with the 0-foot setback. Street trees are being provided. You can see on the very corner they've kind of recessed that in to give kind of an entry feature. The building total is 126,462 square feet. They will not be finishing that third floor, which is important to our discussion on parking. So just keep that in mind. And I'll actually show you a picture of the elevation. So you can see there the elevations. 3 stories above parking, and the height of the building is just over 77 feet, actually more accurately, just under 78 feet. The parking is one thing I'd like to talk to you just a little bit about. And the Planning Commission, after they heard this, had some thoughts and ultimately required approval of the application with a couple of conditions. So the parking, they are providing 51 new stalls on the site. 8 of the stalls are on the street. Technically, we can't count those, but we do want to acknowledge that they are being provided and people will use those stalls. So whether or not we can count them maybe is irrelevant, but I just wanted to point that out. They are proposing to use the current stalls that are, my goodness, right in here. So those stalls will remain. The existing building will be vacated, and so the applicant is proposing that they use the count for that building towards the count of the new building. Overall, let's see. Sorry, I lost my total. They will be providing a total of 192 spaces, which is just slightly over the 1 per 500. We don't really have a count or a standard for a government building or government facility. So we asked them to provide some standards. That was provided in your packet. They also provided us with some pictures of a standard day. So each day during the week, what does that parking look like? And I'll show you those here in a minute. Again, just going through the elevations, you can see the sandstone material will fit in nicely with surrounding buildings, etc. But these are the parking pictures that they provided us. And I will let them go into more detail if they feel like they would like to do that. But I did want to note that the parking was quite a discussion at Planning Commission. Their final conditions were that if it's approved, that there's a couple of triggers for real evaluation of the parking on the site, that those 2 triggers would be that when the third floor is built out, and then secondly, if prior to the existing county offices being occupied. We suggested that the building be torn down, the existing building be torn down, so that there's not a kind of this double dipping of parking. Ultimately, the Planning Commission didn't latch onto that, but those are their conditions. So with that, Planning Commission ultimately recommended approval of the application. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
I'd like to talk about that last part a little bit. Sean, can you clarify just a little bit on the parking side of that? See if your microphone's working.
I think it's on now, okay. Yeah. Did you want me to comment on the number of stalls?
Yes.
Well, Mayor, what I would ask, I think the county has pointed out, and rightly so, that you can look at the existing use, because while the building will be larger, they're still having the same uses occur on that property. And we're also doing a lot more, by the way, remotely. I think our society in general is getting used to doing that. You could see that in our parking lot here, for example, and how many spaces we have now during the day compared to what it used to be prior to the COVID crisis that's come about. But also, too, on the 192, what I would ask is that you give them a variance on that. I would say between 6 and 10 stalls from that 192. The only reason why is because we are in the middle right now of designing the infrastructure for the electricity there, and we have to put some large transformers and vaults in there. We've got a plan. We will be meeting with the county next week, I believe, on that plan. But as we work through that plan, and that's significant because we're putting quite a bit of electrical infrastructure. If you go on that site, you don't maybe notice it, all those power lines there, but we're putting them underground, which will look much better. It's part of our aesthetic project that we've had downtown. When we get the opportunity, we go underground. And we have some locations, preliminary locations, but those might change and they might affect the parking. But what we're talking about is putting those in the right locations because it will stay there forevermore, so that in the future when the county decides to expand or build a parking garage or something, that they don't have to bear the expense of digging up all those lines, and we don't have to go through the trouble of doing that too. So maybe, and we will be as judicious as possible with the number of spaces that we will impact. That's one of the things we'll talk about. But if you could say, let's lower that to 182 at least, and give us that ability to work with them and get those in the right place, I think it'll be fine. It'll work out. I will point out too that we do have a history of kind of looking at the on-street parking, especially downtown, because obviously we wouldn't allow people to build in some of those lots because they couldn't provide enough parking. But if you even go further on Tabernacle, further east on 602, we kind of made an adjustment and put the diagonal parking in there so that we could get more stalls in there, knowing that there was a little bit of trouble.
Which we have even talked about for more on Tabernacle.
Right.
Potentially.
Which potentially could also help with the parking there. And we've got the little parking lot across the street that came from the county to be used as a parking lot there that might also be impacted on that. And I wasn't sure. I'd been told by Victoria that they had put a condition on the building, the existing building being removed. But if that's not a condition, I would not recommend that be a condition, not because I think that building is a perfect example of mid-century modern architecture that could be restored and saved, but they will also have a moving process that they'll need to go through, and they serve the residents of St. George and Washington County like we do. So if they should need to use it for something in the interim that could save the taxpayers money, they should be able to do that.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I was wondering why that would be a condition at this time.
Right. Yes.
So I would, too, ask the council to remove that item, or that bullet point, if you will, and not require that the building be removed. We can cross that bridge when we get to it. Doesn't need to be part of this. But anyway, anything else, Dan?
Not for me.
Like to give the applicant, Commissioner Almquist, Nicole Felshaw, an opportunity to say anything you'd like to. Welcome home, Gil. And Nicole. And Nicole, too, who's down the hall. There seems to be a trend here, Be careful.
Yeah. Gail, is the new building going to have a bomb shelter?
Believe me, the basement, because of what's down there, will definitely be secure.
Do you know, I know every square inch of that building. My grandparents were the custodians of that building for 30 years.
We saw your name etched in the
Probably you might have.
Yeah.
No. I was a good helper, but I found lots of just fabulous treasures in the garbage back then.
Mayor Michelle is also a good example of mid-century.
Yeah.
Hey, I resemble that.
Well, we appreciate this, and it's been a lot of years coming, and of course the older building has served the county well, but we've also expanded services since it was built. The population of the county is almost 9-fold, and so there's a difficulty in not only finding a place to put everything, but also providing the services. So we've appreciated this opportunity to not only take a corner that they have been slowly purchasing properties and acquiring leases, and then, of course, then acquiring the properties where those leases were in order to construct a building. It is tight, but we wanted to stay downtown and contribute to not only St. George as the hub of the county as far as population goes, but also many people flock here for services that they're already coming to the county for. So there was no interest in leaving downtown.
Could you talk to the state about the DMV, Commissioner?
Yes,
we wish they shared that.
We haven't ruled out trying to lure them in. So having said that, we appreciate, though, a little bit of leniency, as was discussed on parking, because it's hard to already in an established area with limited parking to a certain degree build a big building, and that comes with its growing pains. But we're going to make every effort long-term to make sure there's adequate parking, including there is underground parking in this building. So we took the entire eastern wing base bottom floor with a ramp into it. So there is additional parking that we put into the building. Maybe we could have left that out, but we wanted to have some secure parking as well for those that visit, our congressional people, et cetera. We believe that the architecture matches. I know we're not here to talk about that necessarily, but it was brought up, what's on the surface, the
Looks really
sandstone, the ephes type material, the colors. We've tried not to go total sandstone, but we've wanted to tie it in. And of course we have a flattish roof, which means that we're not trying to protrude too high into the air. But with all of the restrictions of size, and we almost had to go vertical without any exception. We purposefully left the third floor open because when we went and viewed 5 or 6, I saw 5 other county and city buildings throughout the state. The first thing they said to us, we didn't build it big enough. And some of these are new buildings. And so we felt right off the bat, if we could get a sort of a hollow space, we would. And our commitment is serious, that when that gets built out, we're going to immediately go into phase 2 and figure out our parking dilemma that would cause. So if there are any other questions, we're happy to entertain them. Council?
I have a question, Commissioner Almquist. Can you hear me okay?
I sure can. Thank you.
I know it sounds like I'm speaking to you from heaven. I'm sorry.
You are above us.
Voice from above.
Yes. Yes. So just a quick question. Well, first of all, I'll just say while I'm on the microphone that I fully support the parking reduction. I think that's a good idea. And I also hope to see the diagonal parking along Tabernacle. I really support that traffic calming measure. And I think it would help to create a more walkable space around your lovely new building. But my question is about the HCP. They have that great museum right now that's really easily accessible for our residents. And I noticed they'll be in your new space. Will they, again, have a museum space that our residents can easily access?
Well, if you like what you have now and we equate that with a single scoop ice cream cone, you're going to get a double scoop. Because
well, all right.
Not only on that main floor where 90% of everyone will come through, they will be immediately approaching not only our HCP area, which we ironically today have been discussing with several groups on how that will look to accommodate not only the Red Rock feel, but also an appreciation for the millions of dollars that citizens have put into the HCP and how that will be displayed and the purpose of it. And then tourism will be able to have part of that space as well, mostly so that they can display the other attributes of our county, and the people that come in there will be able to get brochures or other things that they need to see what can be in, what not only tourist things they can do, but also community events and things like that. So the main floor will be primarily a welcome center, so to speak, in that regard for the HCP as well as, just county recognition. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love that.
Yeah, we hope that that will be not only an attribute for other buildings that want to provide other sort of promotional things, but we can also kind of look at it as some bragging rights for the citizens who built up this great county.
Good question. Thank you, Danielle. Thanks, Commissioner. Anything else? Council?
Mayor, I did have 3 other conditions that they have agreed to.
Well, let's hear them. I'm excited to hear them.
Or Commissioner, do you want to just agree? Because Shane Moore is in the back here listening.
Something about trees.
We're definitely going to plant all the trees we possibly can.
There are 3 oak trees that you are going to allow the city of St. George to spade and replant in one of our whatever location Shane Moore chooses.
You know me, I don't want to cut down any trees. So if Shane can get them out, which I believe he can, as part of this beautification for the electricity, but also just general parking issues, they're all yours. And I think you said 3 issues, and one of those was each tree, right?
Each tree,
okay,
yes.
Good.
Each tree. I want you to know they're all important.
And then we also are going to, in the existing building, we're going to cut out a square-foot piece of the terrazzo floor and give it to Sean in a plaque, a memorial.
That terrazzo's good stuff. Lasts forever.
Yeah, and if the parking becomes an issue, then every time somebody in the county with a county vehicle gets in an accident, we're going to just say they cannot drive anymore to work, and that'll limit it.
Reduce the need. Okay.
Well, we're excited. I want to tell you, based on our philosophy, by the way, we're not borrowing any money to build this building. As of now, with our budget, we've been frugal over the years of saving and making do, and obviously we're living in a 60-year-old building. So there's been some effort to make that building work. But in addition to that, I feel it's strong that I represent the other commissioners, Nicole Felshaw, others who have been in our building department, et cetera, that we're going through some tough times, and we have a local contractor who's committed to hire as many as possible local subs, and we've interviewed those subs, and we know that this money is going back into our community as best as we can. And we really felt strongly about that and hope that it would be a symbol of, progress and improving not only our condition but the city in general, and kind of putting to rest any feelings people have of going backwards despite COVID, despite unrest, that this is moving forward, and hopefully people will take notice in a positive way. Nicole, do you have anything to add?
Any questions for the commissioner or Nicole? We know Nicole's really
behind
all this.
Yes.
County administrator.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't touch anything, and I didn't breathe.
Okay. You didn't breathe? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks, Nicole. Council, any discussion?
I can make a comment on the building. Just while you were talking, Commissioner, I was just going through Google Maps and just doing the street view. Now, I've been down there multiple times, but this is the first time, well, I saw it earlier today, but I've seen it this week, but the renderings, just seeing the effort that's been made to match downtown is commendable. It matches Main Street Plaza very well there. I mean, you can tell that there's been a lot of thought put into this building. And so we really appreciate that. We appreciate the county working with the city and all the organizations here in Southern Utah in such a good way. So thank you for all you do. It's a good looking building.
Agreed. Well said, Greg. I like it, and I like it's a modern look, but with a tie to the past with the sandstone. I like it. It's very fresh, clean looking. So.
It's real stuff.
Yep. Thank you. And the county, we can't forget this. The county also did the same thing with the county St. George branch of the county library, real stone, and the new remodel. And the new remodel. Yep. So, okay. If you're so inclined, council, I'm ready for a motion. If you just have it reflect if you're so inclined, the not requiring the building removal, the existing building removal as part of this, and the required stalls to be 182 to give them just a little bit of flexibility as we're designing with them our change in going underground on the electrical.
I'll make a motion that we approve an ordinance changing the zone from C4 to PDC on the property located on the northeast corner of Tabernacle and 100 East with the changes just commented by the mayor.
Second.
We have a motion by Greg with a second by Michelle. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Greg this time, say aye.
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 Voice from above. Thank you, Danielle. That passes unanimously, and thank you to the county. We're glad to have you as great partners and to have you downtown. This will be exciting. This is going to be a big deal, and we appreciate the wise use of space. Thank you.
And thank you for letting us get to our next thing.
You're sure welcome. Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
I'm going to tap out now. If Danielle Danielle, are you good to stay on Zoom? Are you in service?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I'm good. I'm a little fearful you might lose me for like 30 seconds along here, but I'm good.
Okay. Thank you. I'm not feeling well, people.
Thanks for taking one for the team and coming. We weren't sure if Danielle would be able. No. Thank you, Michelle, for being here.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yep. All right, Adam, should we go back to number 3?
Back to item 3. So this is a public hearing for the 2020 JAG grant that's been awarded to the police department. This is going to give us a little bit of equipment and some training as well for our police officers. This is a great grant program. We're happy to receive it. Chief Whitehead could answer any questions if you have any. We provided some information in the packet, and we would recommend approval.
Question, council, before I open the public hearing?
I just want to say we've got some great things going with the police department right now, and I'm excited for this. So yeah, it's something we need to do.
Thank you, Brian. All right, I will open the public hearing at this time for anyone who might have want to offer input or ask questions on this item number 3 on our agenda today. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, if you're so inclined to make a motion.
I make a motion to approve the Justice Assistant Grant, JAG, application and interlocal agreement.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Brian with a second by Greg. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 And none opposed, since there are only 3 now, so that motion carries unanimously. We'll go to item 4. Adam?
And now it's time for some land use items, so
Okay.
we'll have Wes kick us off here.
Hey, Wes.
I'm here.
Looking good?
Yeah, it's getting long.
Did you go on vacation? Or
I did.
let
and
it
I
grow
haven't
longer?
come back yet.
Yeah.
You know, I've been asking Wes
for
for
a long
2.5 years
Yeah.
to just take a day off.
Yeah.
And I noticed he finally did it.
Yeah.
So
Then there's the effects of it.
Yeah. You know who I saw yesterday? Ron Thompson. He has a beard. Different look for Ron Thompson. Looks good. Not as distinguished as Wes, but, you know.
Okay, item 4 is a public hearing and consideration of amended final subdivision plat for Pineview Commercial Center subdivision, third amended by vacating lots 10 and 11 and their associated easements. So I'll just scroll down. So basically, this request is to vacate these 2 lots from this commercial subdivision here and their associated easements. That's basically the request. Just so you can locate yourself, here's Costco right there. There you go.
Questions, council, on this? Okay, then I will open the public hearing at this time for anyone who has wants to offer input or ask questions on this item, number 4. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and come back to you, council, for any discussion or for your action.
I'll make a motion we approve amended final plat subdivision plat for Pineview Commercial Center subdivision, third amended by vacating lots 10 and 11 after their associated easements.
Second.
Okay? Just giving Danielle a chance, I know. So the motion made by Greg, seconded by Brian. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, none opposed, so motion carries unanimously. Number 5.
Okay, let's see. Not sure I see the other one. Oak Creek. Not sure I can find the other one.
That looks familiar.
I did, it's gonna work. There you go. Nope. How do you close that one down? There you go. And show right now. You just get it. Yeah. And now, it's right here on the PDFs right there. One more. Right there. It's this one right here to the far left. There you go.
That's the one you're on, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what we want to do is open the Zoom back.
It's right there. Just hit that large spot right there. There you go. There we go.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, sorry about that.
It's okay, gave us some quiet moments for a minute, it's fine. We've all just been visiting, so.
Okay, so item 5 is a public hearing consideration of amended final subdivision plat for the Mill Creek Commercial Center, third amended and extended by vacating the public utility easements at the southwest corner of Lot 2, and then by adding lots 10 and 11 that we just previously discussed from the Pineview Commercial Center. So basically, again, like I said, here, lots 10 and 11 were located right here in that Pineview Commercial Center. So now the request is to take those 2 lots and then amend and extend the Mill Creek one. Here's Costco right here, to include those 2 lots, and then dedicate a public storm drain and utility easement right there. This is Lot 5, and there's actually public water that comes through here from the roads, and this used to be a wetlands area that's now dried up, and so they're going to pipe that through to there and just grant the city an easement right there for that storm drain. But then it'll include those 2 new lots as part of this subdivision.
Any questions, council? Danielle, are you still with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, good. She's coming down the Black Ridge right now, folks, so we hope we can keep her. All right.
I'm not at the steering wheel, just to reassure you.
Yeah. Okay, then let's see. I need to open the public hearing, first of all, on this item for any who have come to offer comments or ask questions. Yes, please come forward. I've got the number right. It's number 5, correct? Yeah. Want to make sure I didn't get ahead of myself. If you just state your name for the record as you come to the mic.
Judy Phillips, and I'm representing my mother who lives here.
Okay.
She has Lot 5, I believe, in there that's up, and it's a parking lot, essentially. And she was wondering from the fence of Costco to her property line, it's no longer an easement, or it is going to be an easement, or we're just wondering if there's going to be a fence back there, or to divide her property from whatever's opened up.
Wes, could you answer that for us?
So her property is this Lot 5 right here?
We're actually Lot 8.
Oh, Lot 8 right
So
there.
all this space in here is where,
So they won't be nothing will change right there with Lot 8. They'll just basically come down here, right here in this pink area,
Yeah.
and they're going to pave that
You're right.
and keep all that the same right there.
It's going to be
we were
parking.
just wondering about this area behind.
That'll stay the same for now, as
It'll
it
still
is
be
right now. It's
open.
kind of just that
And
open
whatever
area
fence
that
was at Costco's going to be there.
Yeah,
Okay,
can still be
that's all we have.
Thank you. Thanks, Wes. We're glad you came to ask the question. Any other input or questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing. Is there anything at all from the applicant on this one? I think we have someone representing, this was at Sunrise Engineering on the Zoom. Anything that Sunrise would like to say?
This is Dale Robinson with Sunrise Engineering, and we have no comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Dell. All right. Well, I think I closed the public hearing, but it is closed. Council, I'll come back to you for any comments or for a motion if you're so inclined.
I make a motion to approve the amend final subdivision plat, Mill Creek Commercial Center, third amended and extended by vacating public utility easements at the southwest corner of Lot 2 and by adding lots 10 and 11 of Pineview Commercial Center subdivision, third amended to Lot 2 of said Mill Creek Commercial Center plat.
I'll second that.
Perfect. Thank you, Brian. Makes the motion, and Greg seconds. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, the motion carries unanimously. Item 6.
Mayor and Council. So today, JMI is coming to an appeal decision made by the Shade Tree Board with regards to 2 mulberry trees that are in front of what we refer to as the old Spectrum building that's on the boulevard. The 2 trees are actually protected by ordinance. They both fall into a zone that's protected. There's a 12-foot easement. Any trees that are 4-inch caliper or bigger that are within 12 feet of the easement are protected by ordinance. And so the Shade Tree Board voted that to deny their request to cut them down, but I think JMI is here today with a landscape plan that they would like to appeal to the City Council.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Appreciate the introduction. And then, Steve, are you going to be presenting that? Okay.
I thought you guys would be celebrating more parking at Costco today, but that's a good thing.
We are excited about it.
No, I appreciate you allowing me to take a few minutes. My name's Steve Jennings, for the record, and I'll try to just keep this somewhat brief. But the bottom line is we purchased the Spectrum building the end of last year. And we're simply trying to clean up the tired landscaping around the Spectrum and clean it up. We've done some of that at this point. We've been kind of waiting to finish our plans based on really the decision to be made tonight. We went to the Shade Tree Board some months ago and had a brief meeting with them. A little bit interesting because they didn't have a quorum there and there was not a council member there. And we've never received a letter back from them with official vote of any kind. So I'm not totally sure how that really ended up, but we were kind of encouraged to come and at least present to the City Council our position to see what the decision is. There's 2 mulberry trees out in front of the building, and I don't know if you'd allow me to pass this.
Yeah. Maybe give them to Adam and then...
Or whatever. Anyway, just a snapshot of what it currently looks like. That picture I think was taken in the spring, so the leaves aren't quite totally full, but I thought that might just help you understand where we're coming from. But so really the only issue is that I think it's important to mention that these trees are not located on public property. They're located on private property within the property line. They happen to fall within the 10-foot line, within 10 feet of the property line, and so that's where where Shane and the Shade Tree Board took issue. At the time, we did not have a landscape plan, and so the delay in our appeal to the city council, we went back and hired a professional landscape architect in Landworks, and they took a hard look at that. We spent quite a bit of time on site, and we really felt like it would be nice to create more of an urban feel with a little bit of a courtyard out front, and to replace those trees. And so the plan that we brought, and I don't know, I thought that it was going to be up on the screen for you to see, but I don't know if we have that or not. But anyway, we've got our landscape plan shows a nice courtyard with some planters and a retaining structure. We're trying to bring that down to grade. You can see there's some good grade sloping back to the building. The plan is to build a retaining structure across the front of that building and bring that grass area down to grade, to replace those 2 trees there with some different trees and some other trees on the property to where we meet and exceed the minimum landscape standards under the city ordinance. So I think that's important to mention. There's a lot of reasons we want to get rid of them. They're just overgrown, and one of the main things, though, is that the city's planted nice trees down the boulevard on both sides, as you know. If you look at those trees, it's obvious. If you look at the tree in the foreground on that picture, you can see that it's grown well. If you look at the trees underneath the mulberry trees in question, they've been dwarfed, and they've had to be replaced several times over the years. It's evident if you go back and look at the street view photos, but they just can't grow because they're being dwarfed by these mulberry trees. And so that's one of the reasons, just root issues, and I don't need to get into the rest of that, but it's pretty basic. We're just looking to remove those trees and open that up so that you can see the south end of the building and just clean that tired landscaping up.
All right. Well, thank
you. I might just mention that just one other thing really quickly. In looking at the mission of the Shade Tree Board, if you will, under city ordinance, it's in the code. Their mission is to protect rare, endangered, or trees that are rare, endangered, or of historical significance. We don't feel like those trees fall under any of those 3 categories. So that's why we're here with the appeal.
Okay. And I'd like to give Shane a chance to visit with us a little bit, but council, before that, any questions for Steve?
Steve, this is Danielle. I'm curious, do you not feel like you can create a landscape plan that would incorporate those trees? I mean, I think that this picture that you shared with us is really lovely, this new courtyard look. Is there a way for you to do just that, incorporating those shade trees also?
They're just really large, Danielle. They're very overpowering, and they're growing over the roof structure. Obviously, we could trim them somewhat, but they're just very large and out of the way. The grade issue is probably the biggest thing. That the grass is just filled up over the years as it does with the dirt. And it just needs to be cleaned up, and that's kind of where we're looking.
Okay.
I can kind of see both sides on this one. I got to say, I love those trees, and I love the shade that they offer. Not that they offer shade for parking, because there's no parking on the boulevard, but which is one of the reasons we have shade tree ordinance, I think. But I served on that board some years ago. We did get a copy of that, didn't we, in the packet? Yeah, I see it there. Just wanted to make sure we were talking about the same thing. Any other questions or comments while Steve is up at the podium, council?
I might just point out that we love trees too. I mean, we try everywhere we can to do that. It just feels like the right thing to do for that property.
I kind of see both points too.
Yeah.
It does look really good. Shane, and I'll ask Shane when he comes up.
Okay. Thank you, Steve.
Thank
Appreciate it. And we may have you come back up more, but Shane?
I think the plan is in your packet. It should be attached.
Yep.
Yeah, so the Shade Tree Board, we try to work with the businesses as much as we possibly can. And one thing we always offer is our professional expertise to come out and let them know how we could possibly prune the trees to get them into more of a, prune them up where you could see the building better. So we've talked to Steve and JMI about that, and that's on the table. So we feel like the mission of the Shade Tree Board is to protect our urban forest, and these trees are a valuable part of the urban forest. And I would be remiss if I didn't represent the wishes of the board, and they were pretty adamant that they would love to see the trees stay. And they, Commissioner Almquist even mentioned that he thought they would make a really good addition to the landscape. So I think the plan is done really well, though, that you have in front of you. I think the architect did a good job, and they meet the ordinance on that plan too. So
Can we move them up to the Temple Springs
I
area?
wish we could. That'd be perfect.
Because they're great trees.
They
Can
are.
be moved?
They're beautiful trees.
They can't be moved?
No, they're too big. So
Wish I had them in my far backyard.
yeah, me
I know,
too.
I know the roots on those things do interesting things sometimes, but I love mulberries.
Me too.
Yeah.
There's no better shade tree down here for sure.
Yeah.
So.
I see the plan there. It does look good. And are you looking at changing the facade of the building, Steve, or no?
Just cleaning it up.
Okay.
We're going to fix the glass when it comes down.
Okay. Any other questions for Shane while he's here, or any other thoughts or questions for Steve while he's here?
Do you feel like you can clean those up enough to show their building and be able to give them an opening to the front of the building so people can see it?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think if it were my building, I'd want to keep them and try to incorporate them into the landscape. But I think they're large enough that we could definitely raise the canopy. So.
Hey, this is Danielle again. Well, you guys know that. I don't need to keep saying that. Though I have a mulberry tree where I'm building my new house, and it's really large downtown. And we were able to do exactly what Shane's talking about, trim it up really high. And they're actually quite beautiful, trimmed up really high. They still provide a huge amount of shade. But I believe that they could easily trim them up quite tall, so that there's a lot of bare space at the bottom and still be fantastic and provide, that helping us reduce the urban heat index, which is what our trees do. And so just my 2 cents on that.
Thank you, Danielle. One thing I was just curious about, Steve made the comment about our trees that are, in the sidewalk there. And I'd love to have just some comments from you, Shane, on those, kind of the potential for those, or how you see those interfering or not interfering if the mulberries were to be, trimmed up in terms of the canopy.
Yeah, so there's a couple of catalpa trees that are planted out in front of there, and they're not ideal. Actually, both of them aren't super healthy, so they're probably going to be removed and replaced in the next coming growth cycle. But I think once we lifted those trees up, you'd have a lot more opportunity for sunlight to get in, so you could actually grow a better tree right there.
How big of trees do we usually have in those boxes, Not real big, do we?
Yeah, we refer to those as tree coffins. So
Yeah.
they don't do exceptionally well. In fact, in urban design now, they don't usually put those little 4-foot planters in anymore. So I think we're pretty successful with it because we have such a great crew. But you're never going to get a tree as big as those mulberries are. So mulberries have what we refer to as kind of an oblique root system. So instead of going lateral like an ash tree would, where it really lifts up the sidewalks, they tend to kind of grow down in an oblique fashion, where they don't tend to get into infrastructure quite as much as the ash trees. Now that being said, any tree root is always looking for that interface with oxygen and water, so they're looking for, anywhere they can get that extra water.
Okay. Any other questions for Shane? Otherwise, we'll give Steve another chance to come up if there's anything else he'd like to say. Nope? Okay. Thank you, Shane.
I'm not typically one to reiterate this, but I just want to reiterate that these trees are on private property. They're not in the public right of way. There are trees in the public right of way that are competing, and we'd love to see those be able to grow and flourish and be able to open that up to be able to utilize our property. And then just the other point is, and I love Shane to death. He's actually been my neighbor for a lot of years, and we do like trees, but it just seems like dealing with the Shade Tree Board that there's several people there that they make a living out of trees, and so it's been a difficult discussion. But I'll leave it at that.
Well, then they should want to sell you new trees, Steve, but.
They
no.
should, right? So.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate you and JMI and the good community stewards you are, so thank you.
Thanks, Mayor.
Council, any discussion?
I'll bring this up. So my office is next door, and I actually went down today, knowing this was on City Council, to walk around the trees just to see what I thought, just the thoughts in person. They do currently feel overgrown. What we've seen with the renderings does feel a lot cleaner for the space and probably is more aesthetically pleasing. So I definitely see both sides on it. At the same time, I hate to remove trees in St. George anywhere as well, especially the old mulberries. So it's a very difficult decision. If there is a way to clean them up and make them look good, then I like that. But currently it does feel a little overgrown. It doesn't do the building justice with the way they currently sit. Because it is a great building in a prominent location.
I agree with Greg, Mayor, and I just actually drove by the trees. I'm just pulling into town, and I can see those trees definitely could be cleaned up. There's no question. They are low, but trimming them up higher, I think they could easily incorporate that into that beautiful landscape plan that they have and basically end up with a win-win situation. I think they could keep those shade trees and re-landscape, and it would be really beautiful. And JMI is one of our great contributing members of our citizenry, and I know they'll do a great job with it.
Brian, any comments? Well, it is a tough decision. There are 3 council members present, so this is the kind of thing that will take a unanimous decision to be able to move forward one way or the other. Is anyone inclined to make a motion? There are different things you could do, of course. You could vote to table it. You could vote to deny. You could vote to overturn. So, just a question. Would there be an option to where the city could go in and trim up the trees to see what it looks like there, till we get another opinion, so we could table until that takes place, and then we can consider at that point? I think so. The offer would have to be accepted because they are the property of JMI, so they would have to be willing to allow the city to go in and take a crack at it, so to speak. So you're basically saying try it out if they're willing, and see what everybody thinks then.
I think it sounds like the more people want to conserve the trees than want to remove them. But at the same time, I do feel that currently the trees aren't doing the building the justice that it probably needs. And so I'd like to see, if possible, let's trim them up, and then let's see what happens there. If we think it's not going to be good, then we can make a decision at that point.
I agree, because I'm kind of with JMI on this, and I'm really...
Honestly, I wasn't totally prepared tonight because we thought this had been tabled anyway, but
okay.
I'm saying we don't mind tabling it if that would give us a chance to have the input from the whole council, and if you guys want to propose something like that, we'd be more than happy to look at it.
Well, let's do that now. I don't know what the other 2 council members would say, obviously, but maybe it would, if we did it to a date certain. We could also give you some time, if you wanted to talk with Shane a little bit more, knowing that there, at least tonight, maybe it's split. I'm not sure where Brian is, but and Michelle sits on Shade Tree Board. She missed that meeting, I know.
There was actually only like 2 or 3 of them there, so.
Yeah.
And Gil was leading the charge, and we know
Yeah.
how he feels about it, so.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm not sure how it would go, but at this point, if we were to table this until our next meeting, which would be August, what is it, 20th? That would be our next regular meeting. Steve, would that be, in your mind, would that be okay?
Can we trim them up first? Can we just?
Well, that's up to Steve, if he wants to do that, or let us do that.
We could discuss that with Shane.
So that's what I would suggest is while we're if we table it, then they could have those discussions. And then what is that? Is that 2 weeks' time? Yeah, 2 weeks' time, we'd be back. And if he's still wanting to pursue this, he could.
Well, I'd make a motion that we table item number 6.
Until the 20th?
Until August 20th.
Second.
We have a motion by Greg and a second by Brian. Any discussion? Hearing or seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Danielle's probably like coming in the building.
Aye.
Oh, there she is. Thank you. The motion carries. So this is tabled until the 20th. Give you a little bit of chance to talk some more. And then, Steve, you still have every opportunity to present further in 2 weeks. And we can consider it then. Thank you. Okay, Adam. Number 9, I think.
Looks like we've got Jenna for this one.
Jenna.
We
Nice
brought out
to have
the
you
A-team
here.
for this one. I like this.
Yeah.
Okay. This is an ordinance amending the general plan from golf course to low-density residential on approximately 0.58 acres, located on the south side of Bloomington Drive East at approximately 2800 South. So that's there, kind of that Tonnequint triangle. Existing general plan is a golf course. It's surrounded by LDR, and then there's existing zoning for your reference. So it's just that little area behind the existing houses. And that's all it is.
Council, I think, obviously you have this in your agenda packet, but I think you're aware of this issue. Any questions? This is where the potential for a maintenance building would be. Is that correct? No, this is not. Sorry, I'm jumping to another item.
For this one, if they get the general plan amendment, they'd have to come in for a zone change, most likely to R110, like the surrounding zone.
Oh, yeah, sorry, gotcha.
Question.
Yes, go ahead,
For
Greg.
the zone change on this, would they need to bring in the plans for the house to show what's going to sit on it?
Nope.
No, they wouldn't. It is an irregular piece.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually, can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So I actually went and walked this property because I just wanted to see exactly what it was. When you look at it on the map, it looks like it's, the golf course goes out into it because it has that green overlay. But that's not what it looks like when you get there. It's a vacant lot with a lot of rock on it and things. From what I can see from walking on it, it seemed like a home could fit in and match well to the neighborhood off of the street. And then it would just have a very large, irregular backyard that slopes down. It has a big slope that comes down the back side of it down into the golf course. So that's kind of just to give you an idea of when you walk the lot.
Brian or Danielle, any thoughts on this?
What is the applicant's plan here? I mean, obviously, we see that they want to change it to low-density residential. Are they hoping to get one single-family home on the property?
Just state your name for the record.
Hi, I'm Jared Bates with Rosenberg Associates. I represent the property owner. The plan is to go ahead and build a single-family home there. The idea is to put it towards the west side, the southwest side of the lot. So not up there on the street, but further back. There's quite a bit of room there. There's approximately 80 feet of width there, running north-south, something like that. So it's bigger than it looks on the screen there. And he's talked with the adjacent property owners, and they're in agreement. They're here tonight to support the issue, so, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
And for clarification, staff, we would require a public hearing at the time of rezoning. I think the public comment would be important for this development.
Was there a public hearing at the Planning Commission?
Yes, there was a public hearing at the Planning Commission, and then there's 2 letters in the packet, one in opposition from someone who lives a little bit further away, and one supporting it from someone who lives right adjacent to it.
Okay. All right, so again, as you can see, council, this is the general plan issue that we're looking at tonight. Is there anyone, even though we're not required to, is there anyone here that would like to comment briefly, even though this isn't a public hearing today? Just state your name for the record, if you would.
I'm Hank Moore. I live at 1082 Wesley Powell Drive. Just built a new home there, and my back patio looks right into that lot, and it's just kind of a dirty mess right now.
Would you pull the microphone just a little closer? There you go.
A home there would look really nice. It's just a kind of an eyesore now.
Yeah.
And my wife complains about the dust coming off of it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Yes, sir.
It's good to hear.
I think it was when I was walking the lot, I think it was your lot that I saw looking into that, into your yard looking into the lot, and I was wondering what that property owner would think, so in support of that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
Yes, sir.
My name is Jim Cobb. I'm the guy that did own that lot, and I owned it for 20 years. I cleaned it, cut weeds, and I'm 88 years old now. So I finally had to sell the lot because it didn't fit in my plans, like, you know. So anything you do to the guy that bought it, I think he's going to do a great job because he knows something about weeds and all that and greens, and I think it would be great if you guys approved it.
Thank you. Any other comments? You're so good keeping them short and sweet. It makes it easy.
Jim Blair. I'm one of the owners of Bloomington Country Club. This isn't something that we really were trying to do, you know. It's an eyesore. We've done a pretty good job, I think most people would say, of cleaning up the area and renovation of the golf course. And it's just such a big piece of land. I mean, I think it's been offered that Mr. Cobb and his wife didn't want to give it away, but I mean, we've talked to people around there, and we even, you know, if you want to maintain it or build something in there, have at it. But it's a half an acre or more. It's more than a half an acre. It's a $50,000 to $70,000 job just to get it landscaped and cleaned up with nothing on there. A home will fit in there very nice. As you say, you've walked it. We put a nice little stream for the overflow down in the back. It'll, you know, be a really nice lot, and it'll help the golf course to be cleaned up. And I think almost all of the residents right around it. I know there's one that was concerned, but 4 of the 5 and the owner who it will impact the most that we bought the lot from, you know, he's all for putting a home back there and having it match the, you know, the property. So, you know, it's, I think it's the best of, you know, kind of a tough situation. Thank you,
Jimmy.
I grew up out there, and I've played in that area, and I've played golf on that area, so I think it'd be a great cleanup for the area.
I'm overselling. I'm Charles
Sell
Quinn,
it.
You're fine.
A member of Bloomington, and I've gone through all the restoration of when that place went broke. And these people have put a fortune. For what they put in that golf course, you could have built a brand new golf course. This is the final piece of the puzzle to incorporate that 16th hole for the beauty that it really needs. So, thank you.
Thank you. Well, that gives us a good flavor for what the neighborhood thinks, council. And as Adam said, there would be another public hearing when it came to zoning. So Ready for a motion if you're so inclined.
I make a motion to approve the ordinance amending the general plan from golf course to LDR residential on approximately 1.58 acres located on the south side of Bloomington Drive East at approximately 2800 South.
Second.
Motion was made by Brian, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Okay, thank you, Jenna. Thanks to all of you who came and waited patiently. Let's see, are we going to 11 now?
That's correct.
Okay.
With item 10 being pulled by the applicant, that takes us to item 11. This is in regards to regulations that have been imposed by the Department of Environmental Quality. Of course, we have to comply with those. Our stormwater manager, Christy Schultz, is here. City engineer, also Jay Sandberg, is here if there are any questions. Really, it's something that we have to do, and so staff have responded and put together the guidelines that are mentioned here. We would recommend approval, and of course, happy to answer any questions.
Council, any questions for Adam?
Nope. Let's do it.
All right, ready for a motion.
I make a motion we approve an ordinance amending Title IX, Chapter 14.
Second.
Motion's made by Greg, seconded by Brian. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, starting with Greg this time, say aye.
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 And Danielle?
Aye.
That motion carries
Aye.
unanimously. Thank you, Danielle. And then let's see, we're going to item 12, but refer to the corrected version.
That's correct. So I'll just give you a brief overview of this one, and I think you're familiar with this. So on that southwest side of City View, there was a strip of property before we did all of the alley work. That strip of property adjacent to Greengate Village was going to be public. With the development of Main Street and the city's participation in that and the improvements there, we don't need the property on the west side. In fact, we've contemplated this for quite a while. The city would certainly prefer to be relieved of its maintenance responsibilities there because the developer will do that through their HOA, and so staff would recommend that transfer back to City View.
Make sense, council? Greg?
Have we seen anything that would indicate that they wouldn't do a great job maintaining it at the level that we would?
No.
Okay.
No.
Good question.
I make a motion to approve the fourth amendment of the joint development agreement between St. George Boulevard Land LLC and City of St. George and the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency of the City of St. George, which will transfer 0.212 acres of property at City View project to the developer.
Second.
We have a motion by Brian and seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, that passes unanimously. And I don't have any appointments. Let's see, I'm going to ask if there are any reports. Because we've got the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency, I'm just going to ask now, any reports? Greg? Brian?
Yeah, with the Veterans Coalition today, we had a great turnout for the city fair for the WW2 veterans. What a great memorial they had and ceremony.
Michelle mentioned it a little bit, but please say anything else you want.
I was impressed with what they did today for them, and then with the bringing home of Brian Cooper Mount. We had some great things happen today.
St. George really turned out today, didn't they?
They did.
Not just St. George, but
it brought tears, and it was awesome. So
Yeah.
thank you to everybody.
thanks for your help in coordinating some of those things, Brian. This kind of thing, especially this afternoon. It kind of is an all hands on deck kind of thing, and that showed, and the family was very impressed and pleased, as you can imagine, at this time. So
Our police department did a fantastic job.
they did. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Adam, any reports?
Not tonight, but I would mention that we're gonna have department head reports too. You've got a lot of information that we'll be sending your way tomorrow, probably.
Danielle, any reports from your committees or boards?
Not right now, Mayor, but I will just say in a comment about what Brian just said. My younger brother was here staying on Main Street at our house today, and he called me and said, "What's going on? This is amazing." So he saw, all the support that came out for our fallen soldier, and he was just so impressed. So what a neat community we live in.
It is, and you know something about that, Danielle. It's, you never want to have those occasions, but when you do, it's certainly great to have the support of a community. And I just was very proud today. I got to say, I really wondered, as I said this earlier, Brian, but I really wondered, will we have enough to make a good showing? And we had, Jenny Taylor here representing the Secretary of the Army, who is a widow, obviously from her husband being killed in action almost 2 years ago. And she just said to me after, she said, you can be very proud. This family is very happy. And so anyway, glad to have her here. Tomorrow night, the Lieutenant Governor will be here representing the governor, and we had Senator Ipsen there at this honorable transfer is what they call it. And of course, Brian was there. So we appreciated having, and Michelle was there too with the chief. So we just appreciate it. And the fire department, great showing by them. And anyway.
Well, Jenny and Brent and I served together for many years. I was with him for quite a while, and Jenny is just an amazing person.
She is.
And she does some unbelievable work to keep our soldiers' families and the widowers going in the right direction. And she's a very big asset to our state.
She was able to spend about, 20 minutes to half an hour with Michelle Mount. She offered, Michelle was thrilled at the opportunity, because that's just someone, you don't get to, everyone can say they feel bad and they're sorry and they're praying for you, but not too many have had that exact experience.
Well, and Brent was the same way, and she's just followed. I mean, them two were just meant for each other.
Power couple.
And, they were just great people, and Jenny's just a great person to have on your side. So.
Yep, she is. And she's offered her and pledged her support to us. So I expect we'll hear more from Jenny to help us with projects. So anyway. Just maybe a very quick report. Adam and I have met with staff regarding several things, but most importantly, probably the St. George to Zion potential transit route. Just want you to know that's ongoing. Obviously, no decisions will be made until the council is made aware of all the details, but we're trying to get details. We're really looking under Adam's leadership, we're looking, and Deanna on the financial side, we're looking at the details. Cameron, who was here earlier, asking lots of good questions, getting good answers, making some progress there, and we'll report back to you, I would guess, in the next probably, maybe month with further information so that you can help us make a decision as to whether we will be involved or whether we might be heavily involved, in terms of running this potential transit line. But I can tell you we won't be doing it unless we're absolutely convinced that it works financially and that we're protected. So anyway, those things are ongoing. Anything else you can think of, Adam?
One thing real quick.
Yeah.
Before we get too far, the Underground Railroad.
Yes.
Operation Underground Railroad. Our community is excited to get involved in this, and I'm way excited to be part of what's going on. And I think we need to stay close to them and keep them close to us as to how we can continue to help them help us.
Yeah, agreed.
As our police department needs that support, as they do need our support. So I'm excited about that.
There's an event tomorrow. I'll be there. So those that can, great. Okay, then, council, I don't believe we're going to have a closed session tonight. We had thought we would, but with only having 3 members here, I think we will probably need to schedule a meeting next week on a day that we can all be there. And it would be really probably just for that reason. We'd schedule a meeting only really to go into closed session. So Adam and I will visit about that, and we'll get with you to see what might work. We just have some interesting schedules next week and this week, so we'll see what we can do and get with you ASAP on that. And otherwise, what I would take at this time is a motion, if you're so inclined, to go into the regular meeting of the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency of the City of St. George.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Greg and a second by Brian. Any discussion? All in favor, starting with Danielle, say aye.
Aye.
Greg?
Aye.
Brian? Motion carries unanimously. So we are now the board members of the Redevelopment Agency of the City of St. George. Adam?
Item number 1, you've seen this before. It's just worded a little bit differently this time for the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency. So remember that on the language for a motion, you'd want to refer to the amended agenda, and staff would recommend approval.
Council, this again looks familiar to you. Are you ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we approve
the transfer.
The transfer. Where are we at?
Have to get to the right one, huh?
It's the fourth the joint development agreement between.
Sorry, yeah, that's the corrected one.
So I make a motion that we approve the Fourth Amendment to the joint development agreement between St. George Boulevard Land LLC and the City of St. George and the Neighborhood Redevelopment Agency of the City of St. George, which will transfer 0.212 acres of property to the City View project to the developer.
Second.
Motion was made by Greg and seconded by Brian. Thank you to have that crystal clear on that corrected version. Any discussion, council? All in favor? I'm going to do a roll call vote. All in favor, starting with Brian this time, say aye.
Aye.
Craig?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. And item 2, I believe, is minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes if you're ready to, council?
I make a motion to approve the minutes from the meeting held on May 21st, 2020, and on June 18th, 2020.
Second.
Motion's made by Brian, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Anything else on that? I don't see anything else, Adam. So let's adjourn from the Neighborhood Development Agency meeting and from City Council.
So moved.
Second.
Motion's made by Brian, seconded by Greg. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Motion carries. We are adjourned from both meetings. Have a good night, and we'll be in touch with you on next week.